Hey, welcome back to another edition of Valuable Coaching. We have Wave Club Director and Coach Brennan Dean back on today. And this is a great half of the interview. Again, if you're a coach or if you're a club director, even if you're an educator, he really goes about this as an education professional rather than a coach or just a business person. And so today he talks about pillars of priority for his club. We're looking at how he has recruiting coordinators and why he thinks that is an important part of being a club director. And then also trying to make an impact on these kids' lives with life skills. And this new program he's created called Lab, kind of mashing together what would look like ASB at a school and a team up kind of buddy program with older kids speaking with younger kids and letting them know how to do this. So without further ado, let's get back to the interview with Coach Brennan Dean.
I think one thing that's obvious about Wave, you could go in and see them at a national level, which you touched up on. But I think one thing that people know once they enter the club, but some people that don't know if they're on the outside of the club, is you created this year with Rachel, and I think Coach Cole's involved, Lab. And I wanted you to touch up on that.
Yeah.
You also do, it's a loaded question, but I think you also do a good job where you have a boys recruiting coordinator and myself, and you have one on the women's side, Kevin Hodge. And I think that's actually pretty unique for a club. What made you want to do all that?
Yeah, I'll answer that last one first. So, there's three pillars of priority for me that I look at and I gauge, did we have a successful year? And the first one is, did we teach kids life skills through team sports that are going to help them become significant contributor in society, in their relationships, in their jobs, in their families? I'm a huge firm believer that the skill sets that I use on a daily basis with my daughter and my wife and my career and interacting with peers, I learned through team sports. So we try to trickle that down through our entire organization. And the second one is my passion for education. Being a high school counselor for 10 years at Torrey Pines and working with students that went on to four-year universities, along with junior colleges and trade schools, was just an incredible part of my journey. And for us at Wave, a big piece is creating opportunities for kids to achieve these secondary college opportunities. And the way that we figured out the best opportunity to do this is allocate resources. So we have a recruiting director just for our beach program, another one for our boys, and another one for our girls. And the reason for this is we don't want players to slip between the cracks. It's easy to get the blue chip athlete recruited. That you don't need a recruiting coordinator. The top schools are going to walk around and see them or watch film and easily identify the kids that are those lower D1s, those D2s, those D3s, those NAIAs. Those are the kids that, or kids that come from homes that, college isn't familiar. The application process is new. Those first generation college students, they need the extra support. So we've done a really nice job over the last 5 or 6 years of increasing the amount of athletes that are going on and playing at college, especially on the boys' side. And you deserve a lot of credit for that, Coach. We've just seen a huge increase in our boys finding homes. And I think part of that is just exposure too, is an adult sitting down with them and saying, you probably don't even know about Vassar College. Let me tell you a little bit more about that experience and how you could go and play volleyball there. Yeah, you might not be able to get the UCLA spot that you've been dreaming of, but look at all these other opportunities that are amazing out there. We have these new programs at Jamestown and et cetera, et cetera. So That's the second thing. And then the third thing that we look at when we're deeming did we have a successful season or not is, did we train our athletes to get better? Are we producing teams that are national contenders? Are we being ranked in the top 5 in the United States year after year after year?
That's the recruiting thing is really cool to me. And you touched on the fact that there are homes for a lot of these student athletes. They just probably don't know about them. I mean, I know in our experience now with this and interviewing Division 2, 3 coaches, you know, they're hungry for athletes, and especially student athletes that have good grades and have the life skills like you're talking about. So to be able to give them that experience and give them somebody to talk to that can say, hey, yeah, UCLA is not for you, but you know, look at these 5 other schools that may be a perfect fit for you, and they may even be a, you know, better opportunity in the long run for you. That's great. Those 3 pillars are, I think that's, I don't know, to me, you've developed a whole philosophy and a culture that is just going to keep producing, you know, success, because you very, very clearly have a vision of what you want to do. It's very impressed. It's awesome.
Thanks. And before I answer your question, Coach Kevin, about the lab program that we built up, you know, the other great thing about sports is that we can eliminate some of the stress for some of these kids with the application process. And for example, with verbal commitments to schools, they're now in a position where they don't need to apply to 15 schools because they've early committed, which is really special for especially those Ivy League kids on the men and the women's side, to be able to know I'm going to apply to Harvard, and the coach has already told me with my test scores and my continued improved GPA that I don't have to apply anywhere else. That's really special and really exciting. Lab, our Wave Leadership Advisory Board. Coach Rachel Morris deserves all of the credit for this program, but I will tell you a little bit about it. This is something that she developed during the COVID and quarantine. And we sat down to try to think about how to make a deeper impact in these kids' lives and how to really instill some of the opportunities to use the life skills that we're trying to use. So she had some connections with schools, and I had some significant connections with schools and experience. And what we did was we melded 2 programs that typically happen at a high school. So one is ASB, or the leadership program, and the other one is peer assistant listeners. So these 2 programs we merged together into Lab. And what we've done is we've created a program that is designed to help the rest of the kids in the club, and for the club athletes to have a voice to the coaching staff, and for the athletes to have peers to go and ask questions and advice and guidance. So for example, a 13-year-old who's dealing with maybe the first time a really intense coach with high expectations, and maybe is implementing statistics for the first time to an athlete. And the athlete is trying to learn how to deal with performance and performance anxiety when they see the clipboard come out during serve receive drills. So that's a great conversation that someone on the leadership advisory board who's maybe a junior or a senior could talk to this 13-year-old about their experiences and how they worked through it and how they remember being stressed about it too. So we have an executive board which consists of a president and a vice president, a treasurer, and a secretary. And then we have age group representatives for boys and girls. And we have 2 beach representatives. So the council consists of 14. They're given a budget by the Wave, and they can fundraise anything else that they need beyond it. And they'll be responsible for finding speakers that will come and speak to the entire club. They'll be responsible for team bonding events. They will be responsible. They've already come up with their own idea if they want to do a scholarship for a kid who's going to be a walk-on somewhere and didn't receive any money. I thought that was a pretty exciting, cool idea. And Rachel will be the advisor to the group, and it will be an annual thing. And again, I just think it is another piece that makes Wave really strong.
I think a huge, it still is, but 4 or 5 years ago, grit was a huge buzzword. Culture's a big buzzword lately, but I just think life skills has taken a life of its own in sport, and I think you're on the cutting edge of it. And Rob Rios, who and have respect for, I know he's doing it a little bit, but it seems like you've got some tangible things in the club. They're like, oh well, we have an ASB/advisory board called Lab, and I've seen it. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Matthew Lim. He's one of our top players going D1 to play for UC San Diego, and he's your guys' vice president in the program. And he's told me countless times, like, yeah, we go over this leadership, and it's good stuff you're doing. I noticed lately, and it's great, is with all these great coaches, I've noticed we've had a lot of accolades in the club, which is really cool. Like, you were director of the year. Jed was director of the year for the boys side. Kevin Hodge was coach of the year, and you've had some other female coaches. What do you think that does for the club? Does it give validation for the club, or does it, help maybe recruit kids, or just a way to recognize your awesome coaches?
I don't think it does anything for the club. I think it's really important for the coaches to be recognized for their hard work. I think that when someone like me, and I know Jed would say the same thing, receives that award, what that really represents and signifies is their staff. So when Jed received that award, what it said to me, and I know Jed feels the same way, is this was the year that we had the best staff. And our boys' staff was top to bottom, just extremely impressive. And, it's nice to say, but parents, kids, they look through all of that stuff. They're smart, they're educated, they can read through BS. And you talked about buzzwords like grit and culture. For me, what I spend most of my time thinking about is healthy connections. How do we connect with our athletes? That goes so much further than how do we teach them how to be gritty. Because if you have a connection with an athlete, you can have them run through a wall for you. They'll do things differently. They will train harder when they know that you respect them and that you care for them more than just being an athlete. Now, I say healthy because the world we live in now, and how, there's the crazies in the world that would read into that too deeply, because it is important that we have safe boundaries with our athletes and that we are having age appropriate conversations, etc. But I know that the players who worked the hardest for me have told me that they've done it because they know that I care about them more than just on the court. I care about their day. I care about their grades. I care about how their mom's doing, etc. So I think what you're going to see more and more of is these elite coaches, these elite clubs, and these elite programs just having other ways to connect with their kids. And Lab is another way that we can connect with kids. And, we look at beach as almost a different sport. That's a different sport that I can connect with my kids. How was your beach tournament? Oh, you won the 16 under down at Chula Vista. Congratulations. Like, let me see your trophy. Blah, 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 blah. That's all really important stuff. And I think goes a long way more than, hey, my coach was the AVCA coach of the year. Yeah. They would much rather have a coach that asked them how their day was.
Yeah. No, that's 100% true. And I've seen that as a teacher. I've seen it as a coach. The kids that want to do what you're asking them to do, they do. They want to know that you respect them just like you're asking them to respect you and your word. So that's awesome. And again, using John Wooden's pyramid of success you mentioned earlier is certainly something that I wish more people would dive into that a little deeper. But yeah, I can think of times where, again, that kid just wants to be heard some of the time. And when you acknowledge them and you give them the time of day to do that, they, like you said, they'll work that much harder. They'll listen that much more to you. So
yeah, I can push kids harder when they know that I care about them.
Yeah, definitely. And I can think back on coaches that, they certainly were the ones yelling in my face and trying to push me hard, but I didn't feel that connection. And I had another coach almost the same way. But, if you really had an issue and you pulled him aside and you talked to him about it, he'd be real with you. And it just made the play so much harder for them. So
So a couple of quick tidbit advices for those that are watching. Sorry, I just moved to my computer. Read every John Wooden book that you can find. There's not that many. There's maybe a dozen. They're all short. They're easy reads. Read them all. The other one is rule your team with an iron fist, but with a velvet glove. I think that having that leads to my third one, which is overcoach your athletes. So I coached 12s last year. I coached them like my 18s. I have 14s this year. I coach them like Torrey Pines High School. So I think that this, I hear coaches all the time talking about this generation, and I disagree a lot. I think that this generation really is intellectual and wants to think about things more than we might actually expect. So expose them to the mental side, expose them to studies that have been done on sports, coach them things that you think they might not be ready for. Overcoach your athletes.
Yeah, that's good advice, Coach. And, it's fun because I'm lucky enough to kind of see it, but sometimes I feel like I'm so far, in the forest to see the trees. So to take a step back and listen and go, that's right, do that and all that good stuff. I've been there for 6 years, but, I just can't thank you enough. I mean, as you know, we've talked about in depth. I want to stay in San Diego. I think it's America's finest city. That's what I want to do. My family lives here. And you've helped me every bit of the way. You've helped me get jobs with Matt Olson's kids where, I was their PE teacher at Capri. Then you helped me go get it at San Diego Unified where I am now. And you helped me get the Bishop's job, so all my success has your fingerprints on it. And I don't that. And I just really, really appreciate you, appreciate Coach Jed. And I'm a firm believer in Wave, and that's exactly why I put you on here. I think you're doing great things, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for saying all those kind things. And it reminds me of my favorite Karch Kurai quote, which is always be perpetually dissatisfied. So we're constantly at Wave trying to get better. And I know that that's tough on my admin team, that I'm always coming in their offices. How are we going to get better today? How are we going to get better? But for all of you up and coming coaches, never be satisfied.
Yeah. And I love your comment on overcoaching. I've been mainly coaching middle school volleyball and then doing JV high school. And I don't do a whole lot different between the two because they want to be challenged. And if you just, again, I just think back to some of these tournaments I've taken them to, they're seeing that the fact that they're getting a little bit more of a challenge. The first tournament might be hard, but the third or fourth tournament, they're so much better for it. So that overcoaching, I think, is a great explanation of how to do that and how to challenge those kids.
Yeah, and you got to remember, these kids are customers. And when your customer's done with your practice or your product, they're getting in their parents' car, and their parents are going to ask them every single time, how was practice? Yep. And they're going to say, it was fine, or it was great. Let me tell you about something I learned today. Even if I sucked at it or I had never even heard of it, but I got to run an X. And they're going to talk about that X, and the coaches at the end of the practice are going to be like, that was not a true X, but they are going to go home and they're going to be excited, and those parents are going to sign that kid up for the next camp. So you got to take care of your customer.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on too. I know, like I said, we're all busy, and appreciate your time. And I love hearing what you guys are doing over there. I know when I have more time, I'd love to come check it out and hopefully be a part of, something that obviously sounds
You're
good.
welcome anytime. Welcome anytime. Our doors are always open to everybody. We have people visit from all over the country, and we also like to go in other gyms and try to get better. So we're happy to be an open book.
Cool. All right. Well, we thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, fellas.
All right, a huge thank you to Brennan Dean for coming on with us this week. Great interview. I think a lot of really important things, both for coaches, club directors, and again, even if you're just a teacher, again, I think he gives some great ideas, and has a very well-rounded approach of going at this. Again, it's not just the business side, it's not just the coaching side, it's not just the education piece. He's kind of melded all of those together in order to create this awesome culture at Wave Volleyball, and there's no reason why they shouldn't continue to have that and continue to be successful like they have been. And so, again, big thank you to him. Follow them on Instagram, Wave VBC, and they got a great beach program. They got great facilities, and like he said, always an open door. So go check them out and see what they're doing over there. That he doesn't seem to have any secrets, but he definitely has a formula that's creating a great culture there. So thanks again. We got some more stuff coming up this week, just myself and Kevin, and so we'll look forward to talking with you guys more and sharing more valuable coaching tips.
Hey, if you're looking for some great clothing, new logo, you need a great combination, go to onestoneapparel.com, onestoneapparel.com. They made us this awesome logo that fit better onto a great polo shirt, hoodie, and they got all kinds of different materials that you can choose from. So again, check them out, onestoneapparel.com. Email Dave at onestoneapparel.com. Let him know Valuable Coaching sent you.